On today's show, Donovan Mitchell is going to miss at least 3 more games. It's not great. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. Big news in Cavs land broke just before we started recording. Donovan Mitchell, Cleveland Cavaliers all-star guard, the best player on the team, is going to be listed as out for the next 3 games at minimum. The team announced on Monday that he has undergone a PRP injection, a platelet-rich plasma injection today to treat a bruise that has sidelined him for the last 2 games that is in his left knee. So he will miss Cavs Celtics on Tuesday, Cavs Hawks on Wednesday, and Cavs Wolves on Friday. We're going to get into the short term in segment 1, the long term, and kind of what this can mean for standings and all of that in segment 2, and then we'll look ahead to what probably won't be a good Cavs Celtics game in segment 3. But Evan, what's your initial short term reaction to Donovan Mitchell and him getting a PRP injection?
Well, in the grand scheme of things, you hope it's just a bum bruise that they're going to recover, and it doesn't become like some type of recurring issue or injury going forward, just because for those who don't know, PRP injections usually just like expedite the process when it comes to knee recovery. Steph Curry got one in 2016 for his strained MCL to get him back into the playoff rotation. We all know how that ended, of course, for the Cavs, but still, Curry was dynamite leading up to that point because he elected to have that procedure, and then it really got popularized with Kobe Bryant, of course, and then you see guys like Dwayne Wade and everybody else getting it too on top of Curry, and it makes sense because the Cavs are kind of on the precipice of being really shaky heading into the postseason. And yeah, we'll touch on the Celtics game and who else is unavailable heading into this matchup too, but not having Mitchell at least for the next 3 games is tough because they play the Celtics and then the Hawks on a second game of the back-to-back against Atlanta, and then they host the Minnesota Timberwolves on Friday, and then, you know, knock on wood, Mitchell's able to come back and resume full activity, but I have my doubts just because typically PRP procedures, you're unable to really apply pressure for the first 24 to 48 hours. It depends on the person, of course, and Mitchell's tougher than nails, so who really knows what the outcome will be with his recovery, but you hope he's back against Brooklyn on Sunday, and then the Cavs host the Suns on Monday, I believe, and then they go on a long road trip because the MAC tournament's in Cleveland, and so you're just hoping you can get Mitchell back on the floor so you can just at least for the first time this season find some semblance of a rhythm with like your ideal starting 5, and then just keep building upon that with 22-ish games to go leading to the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, this week, I think that the problem is that what are you going to get out of this week? We'll get into the full scope of Cavs Celtics, but LeVert's also hurt. Okoro's questionable. Strus is like, this team is now just suddenly banged up after they were healthy again. The best player on the team for this week, I was really personally excited to see them play the Knicks, play the Wolves, play the Celtics, see how they do against other really good teams with good records. That's now just out the door. Mitchell didn't play on Sunday. The Cavs didn't really acquit themselves well in that game. No. And then I'm going to look at the line when we get to segment 3 for Cavs Celtics, but Boston's riding an 11-game winning streak, are just playing much better right now, are just a better team. I don't expect that to be a particularly great game unless the Cavs show us just something or the Celtics come in taking them light, whatever. And then you get the Wolves on Friday, and not having Mitchell for any of those, just that you're far less likely to just look like a good NBA team based on what we've seen this year when Donovan Mitchell is not playing for this team. Your bigger picture, we can think about standings. We'll think about just where this team is going to be at coming into the playoffs. I think we can get to that next. But short term, Evan, it's just like this week is like what this week could have been was so interesting. Some of these games were flexed onto national television, and now the Cavs they feel just like they're going to have to kind of like Darius Garland, it's time to get into form. Evan Mobley, time to step up. Like something like that needs to happen, or else this week is going to just get away from them in very, very short order if it hasn't already.
Yeah, the Knicks game being on ESPN already wasn't great for the Cavs. I don't even know what their record is on national TV this year, but I feel like it's suboptimal just off the top of my head. Like every time there's like an ESPN or TNT broadcast with the Cavs, like they haven't had the best outcome for them. I don't want to comment on their play because I can't remember every single game that was on national TV. But yeah, you really hope Garland can turn back the clock. Maybe you see the 2020-21 Cavs where it's just like Garland, Mobley, and Allen are just locked in at every spot. I mean, there's possibly no Isaac Okoro, possibly no Karis LeVert. Max Strus is for sure unavailable. Mitchell's clearly out, as we have touched on several times now. But I'm just, I'm very curious to see how the Cavs weather this storm. They are a team that has weathered plenty of storms. To be frank, you and I recorded and chatted at length when Mobley and Garland were ruled out for over a month when they had their respective surgeries, and they handled that very well. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
That was because of Donovan Mitchell. That was because of Donovan Mitchell.
But I'm wondering, that's what I'm getting to is, because we talked about this on the very late Monday show concerning the game against the Knicks, like the Cavs don't really have a clearly established second best player, and the guy I made the argument for is a game time decision due to an elbow strain, which is something he was grabbing at all night long against the Knicks and Isaac Okoro. But can Darius Garland step up? Can Evan Mobley step up? Can Jared Allen step up? Can they live up to, at least in Garland and Allen's case, the all-star pedigree and shoulder the load against a very, very red-hot Boston Celtics team that I believe has won 11 in a row heading into this matchup? Yeah. And I'm looking at who's unavailable for them. J.D. Davidson, Drew Peterson, Neemias Queta, and Jordan Walsh are all unavailable, and Kristaps Porzingis is the only player that is questionable with a left quad contusion. Like, they have the two J's, they have Drew. Like, this could be either a bloodbath for Cleveland, where they just kind of hope they can make it to the end with still healthy players stand against the Celtics and then just, follow suit after that, or do they put up or shut up and just kind of show like, okay, we are missing our best player, we're missing several of our best players, either star or role, and we just kind of keep riding with it.
Donovan Mitchell for the year, plus his on-off, plus 13.1. The Cavs are better with him on the floor this year. Okay, that's obscene. They are 4.8 points better per 100 possessions with him on offense. Last year he was at plus 2.1 on off. The impact he's had on the team this year has felt bigger in a lot of ways than it did last year. The next best mark on this team in terms of, here's the top 5 in terms of on-off numbers on this Cavs team this year from cleaning the glass. Mitchell's at 13.1. Dean Wade is at plus 5.5. Max Strus at plus 4.9. Jared Allen's at plus 4.7. And Darius Garland's at plus 1.2. Everyone else is a negative in that one metric and when you want to look at it. Mitchell is just so overwhelmingly the best player of this team, and based on what we've seen, that this team doesn't function in a real way all the time without him off. This week is just, it just feels dire. Like, and there's just not really a way around that to me.
Yeah, this upcoming stretch to close the season, like we talked about this during the preview of the schedule, like the Cavs are bookended with two very hard stretches. Like they didn't have an easy stretch to open the season. Like they started 0-3 or 1-2 if I remember correctly. God, it feels so long ago. But I mean, so long ago that's when Ty Jerome last played for the team. But more so the fact that this is a hard stretch for them. Like they get Boston, Atlanta isn't great, but that's still hard on the second game of a back-to-back, especially when you're this banged up. And then you have to deal with the Timberwolves, who are, other than OKC, probably one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And then you get the luxury of facing Brooklyn, who isn't great either, but they're still young and scrappy and have given the Cavs problems this season. And also, then you get the Phoenix Suns, which have Kevin Durant. Devin Booker could be back because of his 7 to 10 day recovery window. And they still have just everything else going. Like, Yusuf Nurkic could eat the Cavs front line that's available alive, much like the Knicks did, or at least Josh Hart tonight against New York. So we'll see what happens, but this will really be a test of adversity, strength, and character, not just of this Cavs team, but of JB Bickerstaff. I am curious to see how creative JB can get with his rotations in lineups now that he does have a lot of like the immediate things that he has leaned on all season long unavailable to him, especially in Mitchell. Like you said, he's heliocentric to everything.
All right, let's get into that more coming up next. What can the Cavs do to adjust without Mitchell? Who has the most pressure on them? We'll talk about that after this. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things in life can really get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week. And to me, right now, that's Sam Merrill's minutes. He should just play more basketball. He's good. He makes the Cavs better. He should play. And a serious note, you can have things going on outside of your life that aren't just about your favorite sports team. Therapy can be different for everyone, and most of us do have bigger problems than our favorite sports team and finding minutes for a good shooter. And it's important to get those things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, so Evan, who is the number one person that has to step up with Donovan Mitchell out these next couple games?
Darius, middle name, don't know it off the top of my head. Gary, Indiana's own Garland. He, statistically
Kennard.
speaking,
his middle name is Kennard, which I didn't know.
Well,
It's Kinnard.
Well, you can think of Luke Kennard or Menards, and I think it's say big money at Menards. But if you know, you know. If you're a Midwest listener, I think it just has to be Darius. Like, statistically speaking, if you look at his game against the Knicks, it was pretty unblemishable. But if you watch how he played, he was pretty great until the third quarter when he only attempted a single shot, or he had one of the most costly turnovers of the game, one of his two turnovers, that resulted in the Josh Hart three-pointer that more or less sealed the game for the Knicks. Like, you need Darius to be hyper efficient with the ball in his hands. I would assume at least JB Bickerstaff is just going to give him the lion's share of minutes at point, with Craig Porter Jr. giving him the opportunity to maybe rest. But it's clear, at least against New York, like CPJ isn't fully equipped to handle like full-time backup point guard responsibilities quite yet. But you're just hoping that Garland can give you enough and he can really get into his bag, whether it's scoring, passing, playmaking, just being not the same player that Donovan Mitchell is for this Cavs team. But if you turn back the clock, like, similar in the sense where like the offense completely revolved around Darius, the Cavs have to maintain that approach, and Darius has to embrace it like every single second he's on the floor.
I think it is him, and it's not just turning back the clock to me. It's just, can you play with aggression in any real sustained way? That is not something we've seen from him since he's come back. There are spurts of it. There are bits of it. He has to play like that. He has to be willing to take a lot of threes. He has to be willing to make decisions at times. I don't know if I've ever felt like Darius Garland has had a season where I have felt like he is not as comfortable as making decisions as he has been right now for whatever reason. It just feels like he is unsure of himself in a way that I had not really thought of him playing that way. He's clearly number one. I think beyond that, it's probably Mobley. I think Mobley was getting featured heavily offensively. Of late, he's kind of been up and down the last couple games in that small sample size, but he's really, really important to wherever this team is going to go. And I think he's kind of the other one that if you can lean on him, get him going, get him good looks, have him have efficient big nights, that's the other one that can, I think, maybe keep this moving. Particularly like if you don't have Strus, if you don't have Okoro, like your rotation's going to look a certain way. It's going to be Sam Merrill. It's going to be Dean Wade playing heavy.
He who shall not be named, according to Cavs fans. Plural George Niang.
Yeah, I mean, like, you might, like you're going to just see some random stuff to patch through what's going on here if you don't have those guys in. But Mobley and Garland as the stars, as the ones that get a lot of the responsibility anyway, will now get more of it. And I think it defaults to them as having the most pressure on them.
Yeah, I mean, more or less, that's who the pressure is on. Morbidly curious to see what that starting five even looks like against Boston. Just knowing that Strus isn't playing, like if Okoro does play, great, but do you put Sam Merrill in that spot if Karis LeVert is available? Do you start him alongside Okoro if they're both available? Like, the Cavs are going to be playing with a tight rotation. Like, may get minutes. Like Amani Bates, Amani Bates may get minutes because he is technically available heading into this game. Like, the Cavs are just really banged up and missing a lot of guys at a very key position where it felt like they had depth before injuries just continued to take their toll on this team. And I wanted to ask you this, just like looking at the beginning of the season and how like this season is ending, do you just feel like injuries really robbed us of what this Cavs team could have been this season?
I think it's too early to say that. I think the reality of the NBA, to be just very pragmatic about this and in a way that I think I am most of the time,
Fair.
is that this just like unfortunately happens. Like when you play 82 games and you decide that the league has to have this many games and you won't shorten the season, this is just going to happen. This is just like every team is going to have to deal with this. It's just kind of baked into a season now. Like it is going to be very rare that you actually get teams being on the same health timeline all the time. You're just kind of like monitoring what you can be for a stretch and like hoping it can all come together in a real way. There are obviously just more extreme versions of that than not, where like the Suns are kind of just like trying to patch enough together, and the Clippers are patching something together. The Cavs, I think, certainly will feel a little bit robbed. I think what we know with JB Bickers have things about continuity and all that. I think they'll feel a certain way, but I think this is where I think you can look ahead to the playoffs a little bit and wonder, like, okay, where does this end up? And did this have an impact on it in this way? Like, did this weird run before the playoffs kind of set them up for failure in some way? I think that's kind of where I go with it. But it makes it less fun to watch them, full stop. Like, if the funnest part of the season was just when they were wrecking teams before the All-Star break, and I don't know if they've, aside from the Dallas game and the Strus thing, I don't know if there's been like a Cavs game that has been particularly just like aesthetically enjoyable or like fun in a major way since then. Like nothing has felt right since then, and in that sense, I do think like some of the energy has kind of been wiped away.
Yeah, the energy has definitely been wiped away. I think there are plenty of fun moments that you can easily lose focus on in the wake of like this Donovan Mitchell injury, like the 12-1 stretch they had, like the multiple winning streaks they had while Mobley and Allen were unavailable. But this, unfortunately, like bad news usually tends to and continues to come in threes. Like the Cavs lost Garland and Mobley in subsequent fashion in mid-December. They lose Mitchell for 3 games minimum. Who knows if it's going to be more or not. With nearly 20-ish games to the playoffs, and he may not be 100% come playoff time, and either he plays through it or he fizzles out again because, it's just an unfortunate reality of the situation. But yeah, it's disappointing from a coverage aspect or just somebody who does like to see this team succeed because it makes it more enjoyable for you and I to talk about them, for myself to cover them. Because, it's never fun to cover a bad team versus a team that has a lot of potential, but it just feels like situations that were either completely out of their control or maybe in their control if possible just gets out of their way. But golly, what a way to see things kind of possibly, I think I'm going to emphasize the word possibly again, fizzle out for the Cavs down this stretch. And it's just, I think the energy's not really there. I think the inconsistencies have been there all season long. And God, if they flame out in the first round again and it's because of injuries, it's still going to leave more questions than answers, but at least we have a bit of context on why it may have happened.
All right, after this, Cavs Celtics is a basketball game that is going to be happening on Tuesday night. We'll preview that after this. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Check them out. All right, so Cavs, Celtics. Evan, do you have the injury report in front? I'm going to pull up the line right now from our friends at FanDuel. If you can run everyone through the injury report for us.
Sure thing. Let me crack my knuckles.
Because this is like... Here. Yeah, this is like...
My neck, my shoulders.
Yeah.
Chris punched me in the left shoulder, so I'm going to really loosen that one up.
Okay, I want to defend myself for 1 second. I was trying to give you a fist bump, and you were just... The second time, actually, yesterday, I tried to give you a fist bump, and you were just unaware that I was trying to give you a fist bump.
as you know, I am more often than not in my own world, or as you saw on my wedding day, crying like a senseless baby because the emotions just come out. But it was the first, not the latter. But for the Cleveland Cavaliers,
I do punch you a lot, though. Unfortunately, I do punch your arm a lot.
You know, it's worse than like punching me in like the face or something. Like that'd be, you know.
I could be beef too.
As freelancers for Locked On, I don't think HR applies to us for this one. So, surprisingly, Ty Jerome is out for this game against the Cavs, or against the Celtics for the Cavs. Joining him is also Donovan Mitchell, as we had talked about ad nauseum, Isaiah Mobley, who's on an NBA G League assignment, Max Strus, who is dealing with a strained right knee, probably as a result of that nasty fall against Isaiah Hartenstein when they played the Knicks. And then Tristan Thompson, who is dried out at this point of PADs, is still under his league suspension. I believe it's 20 or 21 games of his 25-game suspension, but we shall see. Other than that, Karis LeVert remains questionable with a right elbow sprain. I'd assume he's a game-time decision. Isaac Okoro, who was grabbing at his left elbow quite a bit during the game against the Knicks, is questionable as well with a left elbow sprain, which I would assume is a game-time decision. And then, on Boston's side of things, it's J.D. Davison on a G League assignment, Drew Peterson on a G League assignment, Nehemias Queta, who is dealing with a right knee hyperextension, and Jordan Walsh on a G League assignment that are out for Boston. And Kristaps Porzingis, the guy Jared Allen has done pretty okay defending at times, is questionable, and like LeVert and Okoro, will likely be a game-time decision with a left quad contusion, which is a very scary-sounding word for a bruise.
Not great.
What's the line, Chief?
No, don't have one up yet. I looked on FanDuel. I looked generally, and there's not a lineup yet, which is that makes sense considering some of the injury stuff.
Hold on.
Well, it's not from our official part.
No, how many?
Not from our official partner week.
If FanDuel happens to have a line of Sam Merrill breaking his high of 8 3-pointers made,
nuking the over. I'm nuking
the over because he's going to get a heavy line share of minutes, and nobody now can complain that Sam Merrill isn't playing because, by golly, the Cavs have no other choice.
Well, we'll see if he actually does play. We don't put the cart before the horse there, but I mean, really, Evan, the big implication of this game is if you look at the schedule and you look at the standings, it just feels like the Cavs are going to lose another game potentially within the 2-seed standing. JB Bickerstaff was asked pregame Sunday if he thought it was like really important for them to chase it. He kind of said like, yeah, we'd like it, but we're not. Are we going to go out for it? No. It's just kind of paraphrase that. But you look at the schedule on Tuesday and on you look at Monday. But the Clippers are playing at Milwaukee before we record this. That's potentially a game Milwaukee gets another half game up. But if you're rooting for the Clippers, that would make some sense for Cleveland. Look at Tuesday. First time
Ty Lue does the solid for the Cavs.
Right. Tuesday, it's Cavs at Celtics, so that's potentially an issue there. There's no other. The Knicks are in action against Atlanta, so you're kind of rooting for Atlanta there. But right now, as we're recording this, Cavs are a half a game up behind the Bucks, and they're 3.5 up on the Knicks. They are 4 games up on the Sixers, and they're a little further up than the Magic and the Heat and some other teams. This is just like one of those things where what this looks like on Saturday morning, and we'll be recording after Cavs Wolves, so we'll talk about it. What this looks like at the end of the week and what it looks like going into with like a month to go before the end of the regular season. That's the most important thing that's going to happen this week. That's the biggest thing at risk here. Just where's this team? Do they slide in the standings in a way because of this Mitchell injury, because of their other injuries? Do they kind of fall out of the race for the 2 seed and end up kind of trying to hold off someone for third, and as the Bucks kind of pull away and look better if the winners of 5 straight in their own right?
I mean, ideally speaking, the Bucks are playing better under Doc Rivers, as you had mentioned, 5 straight in their own right. But if you're looking for beyond the first round heading into the second round, if you happen to match with Milwaukee instead of Boston or New York, I think that's an ideal drawing if you're the Cavs. But I think the 2 seed, we talked about this exiting the All-Star break as Cleveland's to lose. I think they're going to lose it just because whether it's just, the frustrating losses they've had, the struggles they've had on the court, now just the mountain of injuries they're suddenly dealing with heading into this matchup against Boston. But the schedule was already tight, but I think holding on to the 3 seed should now be the goal for the Cavs if you realistically want to, because that does give you a bit of a cleaner path to get to the Eastern Conference Finals if this team is healthy, if Donovan Mitchell is firing on all cylinders, because he's so important to what this team does. But we shall see. The Knicks are looming. The Sixers are playing phenomenally with Tyrese Maxey just really manning the helm right now, and maybe Joel Embiid comes back in time for the playoffs for them too, but it's what was already tight is going to get considerably tighter for the Cavs heading into this final stretch of 20 or so games, and we shall see how it goes. There could be bumps in the road, but like when they lost Mobley and Garland, I think just going forward you have to take it on a game-by-game basis and obviously take stock of the good and the bad, but really put a little bit more weight on the good, just considering the circumstances that are either in Cleveland's control or just completely out of their control when it comes to injury.
Anyone you'd want to see get a chance on Tuesday one here? Any? Is it Bates? Is it TPJ? Is it just Sam Merrill gets real minutes? That's
Sam
my
Merrill.
answer. Is just play Sam Merrill. But is there anyone else? If Strus is out and Okoro is out, would you want to see Bates? Would you want to see, what do you want to see?
Well, I am surprised Isaiah Mobley's out. I was talking to somebody about this. Can he finally maybe show his chops after 2 years of marinating in the G League? But
I tell you, they don't think he's good. That's unfortunately, I think, what they're saying.
Yeah, unfortunately, and he didn't play the other night for the Charge either due to illness. But outside of Merrill, it does hinge on whether or not Okoro or Levert are available. I think Okoro with even more minutes without Strus or Mitchell out there, that's just fascinating to me because he is playing very good basketball, and if he starts connecting on those just heavier amount of 3-point attempts he's taking and trying to make, that's just going to build his confidence further. And, knock on wood, he was ruled out for the remainder of the Pistons game with with his back tightening up. That was a legitimate fear of mine heading into the game against the Knicks. Okay, if Okoro's unavailable, this could be a recipe for disaster. Last year where an injury just kind of throws a wrench in things, halts a lot of the momentum he had on offense, and he looks really rusty. But if he's able to just continue to keep getting on court and live ball reps, that could make him a bit of an X factor still come playoff time. And that's a silver lining of a very, very dark storm cloud rolling over Cleveland right now. Fittingly, it's supposed to rain tomorrow too. So
tough. Truly, perhaps the most exciting thing about Cavs Celtics might just be that the Kelsey brothers are going to be in the building, and people are going to go nuts for that as they drink lots of alcohol. So
yeah, well, hats off to Jason for a healthy career. He retired today as we were recording this, and so it'll be a special moment. We shall see. Swifties of the world, rejoice.
When there, we'll be back after Cavs Celtics. Donovan Mitchell, again, will not be playing as he's going to miss at least the next 3 games. We'll break it all down continuously here on Locked On Cavs. Talk to y'all tomorrow.